He is Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Appreciate it.
Sorry it's taken me so long to get my act together.
It's okay. I'm thrilled to have you on right here. What is your mindset entering the playoffs right now? You're the 7th seed. You're waiting to find out who your team plays. What's your mindset and expectation level as the owner of the Mavericks here?
You know, I never predict. Yeah, I mean, you've been doing this long enough. You know how all the uncertainties. I just want us to get healthy. You know, we're waiting to see if Chandler Parsons' knee responds to treatment. He's getting better slower than we'd like, and you know he's a big part of what we do. So that's probably our biggest question. But we play Portland tonight, try to get our 50th win, and then we'll find out who we play. You know, it's also kind of different not knowing who the opponent's going to be going into the playoffs. So it's a lot of interesting things going on.
Yeah, and then Rajon Rondo, who you acquired, says essentially the reason he hasn't obviously been as productive as many people had hoped, but he says he hasn't flipped the switch yet for the playoffs. What did you think?
I'm ready.
Where's the switch, Mark? Where's that switch?
You know, hey, I love Rajon. He's one of the smartest guys I've been around. He's very opinionated. He's a strong personality. I love people like that. And, you know, it's just basketball and sports in general isn't the type of business where you typically run into that. So I think he's kind of an outlier from that perspective. But I'm excited. I mean, you know, I give him a ton of credit because when he walked in the door, he wasn't able to shoot the ball, and people were giving him a hard time about it. He's worked on his shot. He's worked on his free throws. I think he's hit, 10 out of his last 13 free throws or something like that. He was swishing threes in our game against Utah. So, if he's getting fine-tuned, ready, and there's another gear to go, I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Have you stepped in at all? Speaking of a hard time with him and Coach Carlisle, it did seem to be a little bit chippy at times a couple of weeks ago on the bench. Did you step in as the owner at all to try and see what's going on between those two?
Well, no. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I talked to Rajon, obviously talk to Coach all the time. But, you kind of expect those things. We actually went through it with Jason Kidd when he first came in, and Avery Johnson was the coach. And when Rick first took over with Jay Kidd, where, dominant personality point guards who want to run the team, they're going to want to do things certain ways, and coaches are going to want to do things in other ways. And, you don't get to be Hall of Fame or all-star quality like Jay Kidd and Rajon have become without having confidence in your ability to run a team. And so I don't have a problem with guys butting heads like that at all. If anything, it just means there's confidence involved and you get to work it out. And, now that we've had Rajon, since December, we call so many fewer plays than we did just 6 weeks ago. So, it's really worked out for the better.
The owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Some of your comments about college basketball certainly grabbed some headlines and some ears, calling it worse than high school, that the 20 to 25 seconds of passing on the perimeter and then somebody goes and tries to make a play, do something stupid, and scoring's gone down, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think of when Kentucky's lost 7 players en masse because they want to come play in your league?
That means they're good recruiters. I'm not a fan of one and done, but for selfish reasons, obviously if I put my NBA hat on, when guys are just in college for 1 year, that they don't develop not only from a basketball perspective, but for not all, but for many of them from a maturity perspective. We end up with guys who have never signed a lease, or rented an apartment, guys who have never had checking accounts or debit cards or credit cards. They don't really understand the concept of money. And, when you think, $1 million is a lot of money, but $1 million after taxes is nowhere near as much as it sounds, and so we have to babysit those kids and provide resources to kind of help bring them into the real world. And I much would prefer that they're a little bit more mature before they come to the NBA. But again, that's just me from an NBA hat, and from a IU grad basketball junkie, college basketball. I miss the days when there were 5 guys on the court that could really play, and you had guys who senior-based teams that. A lot like Wisconsin had in a lot of respects. Wisconsin and maybe Notre Dame will have next year. When you get guys who really know how to play together, the game looks a lot better. There's just not a whole lot of that in college basketball.
Well, I had Coach K on the show, Mark, and he said that basketball is sort of called out unfairly, that if you offered a kid on campus at Duke a couple of $1 million to leave school early for a business venture, that they would leap at the chance as well, and that there's no difference between the two. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, but at the same time, well, let me take it back. Absolutely, the kid would jump at the money, but is there no difference? No, because if I'm a musician, if I'm a golfer, right? If I'm a golfer, I live or die by my performance on the course, right? So if I leave to do golf, if I leave to be a musician, if I'm an entrepreneur and I start a business, and that business, and someone offers me $2 million investment, which happens all the time, by the way, if it fails, it's all on me. There's no guarantees whatsoever. But more importantly, there's no rules that define how much I can study or how much I can prepare in any other sport than football and any other sports than football or basketball. In basketball with the NCAA rules, guys can't practice five at a time over the summer. There's limited on how much they can work on their game. They're limited on being able to take outside the game jobs so they can not have to worry about financial things. There's so many stupid rules that make it not apples to apples. If it was just open, kids could take jobs, you could practice however much you needed to, you could practice just as much as the piano player, just as much as the golfer, then it might be apples to apples, but it's not right now.
Mark Cuban joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'm from New York City. A lot of my friends are upset the Knicks are winning at the end of the season, Mark, because it's blowing their ping pong ball chances here. And I know you had a very fascinating idea, or at least something that you're talking about to prevent tanking with the draft. Can you run me through this and
Sure.
the possibility of this actually being entertained by your colleagues amongst the ownership?
Well, I say the opportunity of it happening is like 1% right now, but we'll discuss it more. What I said was that rather than just getting ping pong balls based off of your win-loss percentage and ranking relative to the other teams, that we have a free agency period of 7 days. And what that would mean is all 30 teams would compete for kids coming out in the draft, and we would have one slot, and the amount of money we'd be able to pay would be based off of where we finish. So, let's say the T-Wolves have the worst record, so they would get the most amount of money. The Knicks have the second worst, so they'd get the second most amount of money. But then we'd all have 1 week to go out and use that amount of money that we're slotted to go sign a rookie free agent. And the difference would be, compared to now, is that you may be able to tank to try to get more money, but at least you'd have to have a better organization and a better environment so that the rookie coming in, the kid coming out of college or wherever, the international kid coming in, would then want to choose the best organization available as opposed to just a lousy organization that keeps on losing games.
What? So you say 1% chance?
Right now, 1%, because we'll have our first NBA meeting since I brought it up on Thursday.
Okay.
So that'll be the first chance I have to bring it up.
And you think you can get that up from 1%, Mark?
I'll get it up. It'll take me about 10 years to get it to 51%.
Well, maybe you should.
That's just the way it works.
How about this, Mark? That you end up having the prospective rookies sitting there, like Shark Tank, and you stand up in front of them and have to give your pitch.
That's what'll happen. It'll be great. You're exactly right.
Make a TV show out of it.
The potential number one pick in the draft. I'm not allowed to talk about names, but the potential number one pick in the draft. This is why you should come to the Dallas Mavericks. And yes, you'll make $850,000 less. But here's why you should come. Here's our development. Here's our organization. Here's our health care. Everything that we do that we think gives us an advantage. And then they make a decision whether or not it's the right move to make.
Yes.
I think you'd see organizations improve dramatically.
NBA Shark Tank is what you can call it.
Exactly.
Then you're done. Then Dolan or Phil Jackson gets up there. I'd watch that. I'll tell you that.
Oh, it'd be fun. You talk about it'd be drama TV, right? You talk about Jameis Winston and people not going to the draft. Everybody would be watching.
Now that the NFL has been mentioned,
Sure.
Mark, it was over a year ago where you said that in 10 years there was an NFL implosion coming.
10 to 15, yeah.
Okay. And that quote unquote, pigs get fat, hogs get
slaughtered.
Yes. And the NFL's getting hoggy. All right. Yep. Now, what did Jerry Jones have to say about that when he saw
Jerry
you?
said he was a hog farmer and don't worry about it.
Well, he's from Arkansas, right? I mean, he's pig suey, right?
He knows, yeah. And I love Jerry. We have a great relationship.
Right.
He's a great guy.
So do you still believe that about the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I've learned in business is that it's when you're climbing up the mountain, the struggle to get to the top is one thing, right? And you're always working, you're always considerate of people around you because you realize you need someone else's help to get there. When you're on top of the mountain, people tend to lose sight of the struggle, you know, and the things they had to do to get there. You know, Bill Gates, and I'm going to paraphrase what Bill Gates said, that, you know, being successful is one of the biggest problems a lot of people have because it makes them think they're too smart. And, you know, I have a saying in my businesses, no matter how successful we are, we have to re-earn our business every single day because there's always someone out there trying to kick your ass and take you off the mountain. I think the NFL has lost sight of that. I really think that they think they're invincible. And the minute you feel you're invincible, it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens where something goes wrong. And remember, you know, we're old enough to remember that there were once franchises leaving in the middle of the night in the NFL. And there's so many things that could change on a dime because, you know, the NFL is dependent on technology with fantasy games to really get that last 10, 15% of their ratings for television, or maybe a little bit more. And, you know, Adam Silver was vocal on speaking up about gambling, which was great because we're also hypocritical about being against gambling, but we directly and indirectly support it and encourage it. So, you know, if there's a change in the laws of gambling and, you know, something comes up that just changes the dynamic of how and why people connect with sports, if, you know, daily fantasy changes how people connect to sports, you know, if something in television changes how people connect to sports, you know, those are such strong and influential bases for all sports, but in particular the NFL, all of a sudden, you know, there could be a dramatic change. And so, when you think that you're invincible when there's so many opportunities for change, typically something goes wrong. And so I didn't predict it happening, you know, in the next year or two because, you know, the NFL is so strong right now. But that next TV deal could be completely different. The next, you know, fantasy sports surge could be completely different. The legalization of gambling can make things completely different. And if you think that you're too smart and above it all, you know, you're going to be that pig that gets slaughtered.
Well, but
or hog that gets slaughtered.
Mr. Jones, Jerry Jones, you know, you have a great relationship with him. He is an integral part of the decision making, along with the commissioner.
But he's not the only part, right? And we've seen some of it. You know, with last summer, it was a difficult summer for the NFL, and it proved that the fans really didn't care about the day-to-day problems of individual players in the NFL. But it also proved that from an organizational perspective that maybe not all sides were talking to each other. Maybe not all people were talking to each other. You know, I think the owners expect Roger to take all the bullets for them, and that puts them in a different type of position than maybe optimizing and paying attention. Let me rephrase another way. With all the different distractions that happened last summer and Roger Goodell being responsible for dealing with all of them, you know, maybe it's tough to have somebody focused on staying on top of the mountain. And when you have those distractions, the distraction might not bring you down, but it might divert your attention, and that might bring you down.
So if the NFL was a stock, Mark Cuban, you would not buy? You would not buy that stock right now?
Well, no, because I know, would I buy it just as a stock? Depends what my time horizon was. If it was a 1 or 2 or 3 year investment, sure, why not? You know, I think their TV deals are in place. You know, they have the opportunity to add LA, which can create revenue. Things are going well. I mean, there's still risk in terms of attendance and individual franchises. I mean, you know, so there's risk, but overall, yeah, if I had a shorter term horizon, yeah. Would I have total confidence if this was an investment where I couldn't sell it in 15 years? Then no, I wouldn't buy.
Mark, I appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you in studio if you come out here to LA at any point. Would be great.
Yeah, I'd love to do. Absolutely, I'm out there shooting Shark Tank, and if you want to come visit the set,
are you kidding
me? We're in Culver City. You're more than welcome.
Mark,
bring your parents.
Mark, thank you. It's addictive. It's addictive. But before I let you go, what is the best idea that you've bought on that show that you're excited about?
I mean, actually, I've only had one go belly up. I've got 2 businesses where they're so stupid that they don't know they're out of business, so they're still in business.
Okay.
But the rest, I've got like 4 or 5 cream of the crop businesses that, you know, have gone from under 100,000 in sales to, you know, $3, $6, $8, and $10 million in sales. So I've got a lot of them doing really well.
Fantastic. Mark, I look forward to the next visit. Thanks for coming on.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks.
You bet. That's Mavericks owner Mark Cuban.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.